There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't show up on medical tests. It's the exhaustion of waking up every day feeling like life is always slightly out of place, as if you're trying to run while carrying stones in your pockets. You try to focus. You try to stay calm, but everything around you seems to pull you back into chaos. Notifications, expectations, invisible pressures, and deep down, you feel you could be in control, but you aren't. But what if I told you there's a Japanese habit capable of breaking this cycle? A habit so simple it almost looks insignificant. Yet when practiced correctly, it turns your mind into a clearer, stronger territory, almost impossible to disturb. A habit used by modern-day samurai, athletes, scholars, and ordinary people who decided to live extraordinary lives. Today, you'll understand how something that appears small can make you calmer, more focused, and slowly unstoppable. Kaizen was born in a Japan devastated by war. Cities were in ruins, resources were scarce, and a collective sense of failure hung over the country. There was no room for grand reforms or miraculous leaps. The only path forward was to start small, almost microscopically small. And that's how this philosophy emerged, improving just 1% each day, adjusting, refining, observing, correcting. Tiny actions repeated with intention create changes that look impossible from far away, yet inevitable when you look up close. While the Western world celebrates revolutions, massive goals, and dramatic transformations, the East understands something we often forget. Real life changes in the details, in the gestures, in the small habits that repeat silently until they shape who you become. The central insight of Kaizen is simple but profound. The human mind doesn't fear small changes. That's why they slip past resistance. And that's exactly why they work. When you give your brain steps so light that it finds no reason to push back, it lets you move forward. And before you notice, you've gone further than you imagined. Kaizen is not about being perfect. It's about being slightly better than yesterday, and a little better than that tomorrow. This is how someone becomes calm, focused, and, almost without realizing it, unstoppable. The first thing you need to understand is this. Kaizen isn't about changing your entire life in one heroic gesture. It's about changing the next minute, the next action, the next breath. When you remove even a little of the chaos surrounding you, you create a quiet space inside. And it's in that space that focus finally appears. Imagine a room with dozens of objects scattered across the floor. The moment you try to walk, you trip. You get irritated. You lose time. That's how most people live mentally. Kaizen begins by picking up one object. Just one. Maybe it's organizing your desk, drinking a glass of water, writing a single sentence of a project, or turning off notifications for 5 minutes. The second habit is simple but powerful. Reduce friction. Every time something in your routine feels heavy, complicated, full of resistance, your mind pushes back. Kaizen invites you to ask, how can I make this 1% easier? Maybe it's leaving your running clothes ready the night before. Maybe it's starting work with just 2 minutes of silence. Maybe it's writing your goals on a small piece of paper instead of letting them float endlessly in your mind. There's something few people ever notice. Consistency isn't a gift. It's a consequence. When you remove friction, consistency appears. And when consistency appears, discipline stops being suffering and becomes identity. Another powerful part of Kaizen is micro-rituals, small gestures that tell your brain, now it's time to focus. A Japanese craftsman might begin his work by touching his tools for a moment in silence. A swordsman might align his feet before the first movement. You can do the same. Turn on a specific light. Open a notebook. Take 3 deep breaths. These mini rituals transform scattered energy into concentrated presence. Kaizen also teaches something the modern world has almost forgotten. Slow is smooth, and smooth becomes fast. You don't become unstoppable by running without direction. You become unstoppable by walking correctly, one step at a time. Think of someone who wants to study. They wait for motivation, for a perfect day, for a long block of time, and nothing happens. But if they study for 5 minutes every day, something changes in the brain. 5 minutes become 10. 10 become 30. Suddenly, what was once difficult becomes natural, and what was natural becomes effortless. Another thing you must understand is that calm isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of inner order. When you apply Kaizen, life stops feeling like a storm and starts feeling like a path. You wake up knowing exactly what your next step is. You're not living to put out fires. You're living to build something. Kaizen doesn't ask you to be fast. It asks you to be consistent. It asks you to honor your small wins. It asks you to trust that tiny improvements, repeated, create a version of you far stronger than the person who tries to change everything at once and gives up. And maybe the most beautiful part, Kaizen removes guilt. You don't need to be perfect tomorrow. Just 1% better, that's all. One gesture, one adjustment, one moment of clarity. And as days pass, that 1% grows into focus, grows into calm, grows into silent strength. This is how Kaizen shapes people who are unshakable. Not through intensity, but through intention. Not through speed, but through presence. Not through pressure, but through the small acts you repeat until you become someone entirely different. Someone calm, focused, and unstoppable. You might be thinking, but I don't have time. My life is too busy. I'm too inconsistent. Kaizen sounds beautiful, but it's not for me. And that's exactly why Kaizen exists. This habit was created for people who were overwhelmed, tired, rebuilding their lives from zero. It doesn't demand long hours or perfect discipline. It works precisely because it fits into the smallest spaces of your routine. You don't need silence. You don't need motivation. You don't need energy. You only need a single minute where you decide to do something 1% better than yesterday. If you're disorganized, Kaizen meets you where you are. If you're busy, Kaizen uses the tiny gaps that already exist. If you're tired, Kaizen removes the weight instead of adding more. It adapts to your reality, not the other way around. Because Kaizen is not about controlling your entire life. It's about mastering the next small action. In the end, Kaizen teaches something profound. Greatness isn't built in a single moment. It's built in the moments no one sees. The quiet improvements, the tiny choices, the invisible victories that slowly shape your mind into something steady, grounded, and powerful. If you remember only one thing from this video, let it be this. You don't need a new life to become unstoppable. You only need a new direction. One small step better than yesterday. Calmer, more focused, more intentional. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel. Every week, I'll bring another teaching to help you grow, strengthen your mind, and build a life you're proud of living. Your evolution doesn't start someday. It starts now, in the smallest possible step.